What's the one thing you regret doing for your wedding day? Getting a friend to video. It's crap. I remember when my dad got married to my stepmom, and I was around 12 or 13 years old. At the time, I had a weird obsession with photo and video cameras, and spent a fair amount of time fiddling with them. My dad handed me the camera, and I went around taking candid videos of people at their tables. No interviews because I'm fucking 12 and shy as hell. Later on, my dad took the camera from my hands and gave it to my stepmom's brother to do interviews and talk to people at the wedding. For the rest of the remaining tape, he recorded video interviews of his own wife, daughter, and son. My dad actually pulled me aside after the wedding to tell me he regretted not letting me hold onto the camera because I actually got some good footage of everyone at the wedding. To be completely fair, I understand why my dad trusted a full-grown adult over his preteen son to take a video of an extremely important occasion. A reception line. I got talked into it. I didn't want to do it but felt pressured. All I did for 3/4 of my reception was stand and say hello to people. It was miserable and took a lot of the fun out of the day. Fucking A, my wife's family insisted on it, and I was pretty ambivalent, so I went with it. By the time we got done with it, the food was all cold, guests had started to leave, etc. Not fucking worth it. Years later, we went to one where everyone went in, ate dinner, and then the bride and groom went table to table. That was why better. Seems like most people's regret can be drilled down into doing what their parents wanted them to do. Reading this thread is making me really glad we didn't have a true wedding. My husband and I always wanted to do courthouse, and apparently I never made that clear to my parents. My in-laws were cool with this, and we told them we would wait till they visited in May, but COVID ruined that, and they told us not to wait on them. My dad, though, spent 5 months trying to convince me that my husband had to ask his permission, said he wouldn't accept it otherwise. Begged us to get married in a church when we are both agnostic and my dad doesn't even attend mass anyways. Just wanted that cause it's what my cousins did. And then begged and pleaded we have a reception so he could have a party like all of my cousins did. I hate attention, weddings, parties, all of it. I don't even like drinking outside of my own home. We got married right after lockdown lifted in our state, but I told my parents not to come because our county was still bad and my dad was pissed. Said he would show up anyways. But he never did, thank fuck. It was just us and my friend who took our photos. Perfect in my eyes. Not exactly a regret, but just a reminder to keep things in perspective. Looking at my grandmother's wedding photos, she pointed out her bridesmaids wearing matching hats. She remembered these hats were important and there was some big to do about them. For the life of her, she couldn't remember what exactly, and you certainly couldn't tell from the pictures. Just remember that when you're having heated debates over the correct shade of blue for the napkins. Wearing heels. Also letting my sister-in-law convince me to stay at her house the night before instead of a hotel. I slept on a tiny uncomfortable futon with my giant future husband and slept maybe an hour. Yes. My wife's grandma was stunned she was spending the night before at our place and kept trying to get her to come sleep at her grandma's house on the couch, and my wife shot that down quick. Slept in our bed the night before and got a good night's rest before a long ass day. Letting the photographer dictate where we should be for the entire night. Going back, I would have told him do all the photo poses you want in the first hour, then leave us alone. Also would have had someone walk around with us when we said hi to each table to help us get out of drawn out conversations to make it go faster. Oh, that's a good one, about having someone break up the conversation at tables to move you along. Letting a homeless guy into our reception venue to use the restroom. Half hour later, he's still in there. A few of my guests chimneyed the door open and found him passed out on heroin. We had a homeless guy come into our wedding and was let in by the uppity wedding planner because he was wearing a Jack Daniels shirt, and our minister family is named Jack Daniels. True story. He signed our wedding book back quote wish I was getting married, and then stole my bridesmaid's wallet and the aforementioned planner's car. So, you know, a memorable day. I regret not hiring a DJ. It's not only music, they help with the flow of the wedding. Flower toss, first dance, money dance, whatever you want. We cut corners where we could, and that was one I regret. I wrote this in another comment, but a good DJ is important. A professional DJ know how to read the crowd and set the mood. You can have a playlist and try running it from a phone, but any DJ knows that no matter how you plan in advance how the audience will react, it never goes that way and you have to quickly switch it up. My husband and I went off alone to be married in the woods. No regrets on that, but I regret not going further off trail for the actual vow exchange. A lady on horseback yelled at me that the white thing on your head is scaring my horse. That was the universe giving you a golden opportunity to tell someone back quote fuck you and the horse you rode in on in perfect context. Getting separated from my wife while at the wedding. She went to the bathroom and then got swarmed by friends and family and she disappeared what seemed like hours. Also, in general getting pulled away from each other when I would get a drink or talk to someone. The reason I regret it is because my wife looked so absolutely stunning that day and I just wanted to look at her the entire time. My wife is still hot but something about that dress. In all honesty, I regret dancing so much. We danced so much, we forgot to go around to individually thank everyone for coming. They all came to us on the dance floor to say hello 10/10 still dancing. I was a guest at a wedding where the bride and groom were glued to the dance floor and I was so happy they were having fun and enjoying their day. Weddings are so often about what you're supposed to do when really it should be your day to celebrate as you see fit. I should have made my wife eat her meal. We sat at the table alone and chatted while everyone else was eating and she said she wasn't very hungry after eating like 1/4 of her plate. Turns out that half hour was the only 30 minutes of the day she wasn't hungry. I finally went downstairs and got her a plate of hors d'oeuvres after her trying to politely sneak down for 2 hours. They spirited her food away some point after dinner and she still regrets not getting to eat the great food we picked out. Not eloping and leaving my mother-in-law in the dark. I could have had hair and makeup done. Could have had the dress of my dreams. And may even have pictures on my walls from a day I loved. I had none of those things and it still hurts. Same here, but my mom, and not my mill. We had a quickie courthouse ceremony because I didn't want her alcoholism to ruin a nice wedding, and she managed to ruin it anyway. No dress, no cake, pictures, nothing. The marriage turned out pretty great, though. I hope yours did too. I would move speeches to before dinner is served. People are quicker when they're hungry and not drunk yet. I personally wouldn't bother with the first dance. We are not dancers. It was really fucking awkward. The one thing I would recommend to everyone is having party bombs, like mini indoor firework, and inside there's silly stuff to play with. We had groups of people from different places who didn't know each other. It was a brilliant icebreaker and so much fun. My wife and I don't dance. At least the fancy kind. We picked our wedding song to dance to and that was the end of that thought process. The day if they call us out for the dance and a lot of people were expecting something. Maybe a nice and boring box step. Maybe one of those crazy choreographed numbers you see on YouTube. Nope. What they got was 2 lovebirds laughing their asses off while faking dance moves all over the dance floor. It may have been the only time I truly spent alone with my wife at the ceremony. Just 2 numbskulls swinging each other around cackling like madmen. There are 2 moments from that wedding that I'll never forget. My beautiful wife to be walking down the aisle and the smile she gave me when she realized we were about to put on a good show. My wife and I don't dance. At least the fancy kind. We picked our wedding song to dance to and that was the end of that thought process. The day if they call us out for the dance and a lot of people were expecting something. Maybe a nice and boring box step. Maybe one of those crazy choreographed numbers you see on YouTube. Nope. What they got was 2 lovebirds laughing their asses off while faking dance moves all over the dance floor. It may have been the only time I truly spent alone with my wife at the ceremony. Just 2 numbskulls swinging each other around cackling like madmen. There are 2 moments from that wedding that I'll never forget. My beautiful wife to be walking down the aisle and the smile she gave me when she realized we were about to put on a good show. Stuffing cake in my wife's face. No exaggeration, I regret it to this day. One of the traits of a successful marriage is to protect your spouse with words, with your actions. Protect in this case has the meaning of upholding their dignity, their honor, etc. Shoving cake in their face is not doing any of that, and it's very public. Don't do it. Plus it messed with her makeup. I really wish I hadn't. Open bracket. I absolutely adored my wedding. If I would change one thing though, it would have been to hire a hair and makeup artist. My middle did my hair, and it was fine. And I did my own makeup, and it was fine. But I wish I had just let myself spend that little bit extra on myself looking back. Even though we did get caught in the rain, so it all would have been ruined the same either way, haha. Made for a fabulous waterfall photo though. Interesting how quite a few say they regret not eloping, but so far nobody said they regret doing it. My husband and I wanted to elope, but were feeling the pressure to do something with family. COVID came around, and we couldn't fly back to our home country, so we got to do the national park elopement we always wanted. My only regret was actually not having my mom and dad there, as the border is still closed, so they couldn't come, but overall very happy we didn't cave to a normal wedding earlier. Not planning ahead, we married some months ago, just us. Had to go to Denmark as it is easier, but we didn't really plan anything in advance. We went in car from Germany and we were crashing in hotels in the towns along the way. The wedding day morning was nice and unique, but we were running late to the town hall and the stress made us have a small fight 5 minutes before or after that we made the mistake of just driving south as we were sure we would find a nice restaurant to eat. We didn't. Everything was closed by 1600 hours. We didn't think on driving 1 hour north to Copenhagen, where I guess there would be something open, so we ended up in a crappy kebab place. There was nothing to do around, so we just returned to Germany, but by the time we are there, receptions in hotels are closed. We thought we would be sleeping in the car, still with wedding dress BTW, but after some hours we find a very nice hotel and sleep like babies. I regret that all those things made us irritable. Specialimer's hunger makes me so irritable and angry instead of taking it with humor. We try to see our self-made wedding photos and remember the nice moments we had, but still regret we didn't plan better or at least drove to a big city instead of going to the middle of nowhere. Anyway, married life has been great, and we may have later, when COVID allows it, a wedding party, so no big deal. Making sure I said hi to everyone. I remember a table with my husband's aunt and cousin who I had never met, and as I walked past I realized later they were getting ready for me to come over and say hi. I had just got done walking away from my stepmom who was causing all kinds of drama, and it didn't dawn on me until later that I didn't make sure I said hi to them. It was a very small wedding, and I said hi to a lot of them, but I know I missed a few and regret it. Oh, and ignoring all drama. I had an amazing night, but I should have ignored my stepmom, and I should have made my maid of honor take a cab instead of being her DD on my wedding night. Getting married publicly and changing my name. I only wanted a courthouse wedding and desperately wanted to keep my name. My ex would only marry me if those conditions were met. I should have known then. I'm not changing my name. People ask if my fiancé is upset about that, and I tell everyone the same thing. I wouldn't be marrying him if he were the type of man to get upset over that. He says my last name is better than his anyway. Letting the guy who owned the place where we had our reception order the cake. He asked if we wanted whipped cream or marzipan. We said marzipan and the cake we got was whipped cream. Excellent cake, so no biggie, but we should have gone to a bakery ourselves. Allowing other people to decide who was invited. I was trying to be fair to everyone, but the list of people my husband was told he had to invite was enormous. We had a rather small venue, only able to accommodate 80 people, and that list took up more than half of that. I had to make cuts, which of course made me Bridezilla, but like, I'm sorry, your neighbor that I think is creepy and intrusive can't come. I regret not making a bigger stand though, because I look back at my pictures, and there's so many people I still don't even know who they are. Several that I did, but didn't want there in the first place, and so many missing that I wish I could have invited, but didn't have a spot for. I can blame Reddit for this one. Instead of individual party favors, we made a donation to a local animal rescue organization, and they then brought a puppy party, 2 puppies, already adopted, to the reception. I mentioned this on a wedding sub and people mobbed me about it. So I took all sorts of extra precautions about where they would be, told the photographer not to take any photos, to discourage them being treated as props, etc. Mostly they were good steps, but I went overboard, and I wish more people could have enjoyed their adorableness and raised awareness of the org. I regret taking it so seriously. It's just one day, as long as you make it nice, don't get too stressed about it. But I sat a friend with a table of strangers because we didn't have enough room and it was a tight fit. The strangers were all his age and lived in New York City like him, but I should have sat him with his friends. Also, I regret not having a longer ceremony. I think ours was about 5 minutes. It should have had a reading by someone or some other element to it. And I wish the food was a little better. We liked the venue so much, so that trumped the mere food quality. I regret making my former best friend my bridesmaid. We were growing in different directions. I knew she hated weddings, but my dumbass thought I could bring her closer. It was a disaster, and I felt terrible when she predictably did not give a shit about anything. I felt overlooked and unimportant. I should have just let the friendship run its course instead of dragging us through this final death rattle of a relationship I was grieving in real time. I felt humiliated because the person I loved so much did not give a fuck. Learn from my mistake. TBH, I regret my dress. It wasn't my favorite and I only got it cause it was priced for $150. I didn't have much money, so I cut costs where I thought would be fit and thought the dress should be cheap considering how I'd only wear it for one day. If I could do my wedding over again, I'd splurge to feel like a princess. On my final fitting day I sobbed because I hated it so much. But at that point, there was nothing I could do. I actually had a fantastic wedding. We got married in Vegas at the Luxor Hotel. All we had to do is show up and say I do. Pics were easy. Ceremony was easy. Buffet after was easy. It took about 15 minutes. And because it was a destination wedding, we only had very close family and friends there. Total cost was under $5K including flights. I wouldn't change a thing. I forgot to tell my vegetarian friends there were more options for them. They just needed to ask. They were actually really surprised there were already so many things they could have and didn't feel like they missed anything. I felt vaguely guilty, even though they were happy as it was. Other than that, well, the only not great things were out of my control. I have a couple of things I'd change, in no particular order. Not putting disposable cameras on the guests' tables. Cheesy, I know, but it would have been great to have some pictures of things I missed. Videographer. My mother was adamant this was the way, and I thought I knew better. Sadly, a lot of things happened on the day spur of the moment which I remember now, but who knows in 10 years time. Evening guests. I wish I'd upgraded my evening guests, that I was on the fence about today guests, and been done away with the rest. We had some amazing people show up, but when the evening portions are 6/7 hours into the swing of the day, a new group of arrivals really did slow the pace. Plus, you want to show your appreciation to them for coming, but as they are on a different level, you're not all in the same headspace, and you need to say how "lovely the day was" and how much fun you'd had. Go with your gut on a photographer. I loved our photographer. I don't love our photos. Just because someone is awesome doesn't mean you will get the end result you desire. Spend some time scrutinizing their work to make sure you get what you want.